Dragonflies today have a wingspan of about 16 centimeters. 300 million years ago, dragonflies had wingspans reaching 75 centimeters, wider than a large pizza. But here's what fossil evidence from the Carboniferous period reveals. These weren't the biggest problem. For roughly 60 million years, Earth's atmosphere contained 35% oxygen compared to today's 21%. That seemingly small difference transformed insects into monsters that ruled the planet. You couldn't walk through a forest without encountering predators the size of house cats, and flying away wasn't an option when dragonflies hunted from above with the precision of modern fighter jets. The Carboniferous period, spanning from 359 to 299 million years ago, created conditions that turned arthropods into apex predators. Before dinosaurs existed, before reptiles dominated the land, insects claimed the throne. And unlike modern insects you can swat away, these creatures possessed capabilities that made avoidance impossible. Meganeura, the giant dragonfly, measured 75 centimeters across, roughly the wingspan of a hawk, but wingspan tells only part of the story. Fossil evidence from France discovered in 1880 revealed compound eyes containing over 30,000 individual lenses. That's visual processing power that detected movement from 20 meters away in any direction. You couldn't hide from something that saw you before you saw it. Not to worry, though. Meganeura's hunting method makes modern dragonflies look gentle. Flight speeds reached 56 kilometers per hour, faster than you could sprint. Serrated mandibles measuring 3 centimeters long didn't just bite, they soared through the exoskeletons of other insects in seconds. Paleontologist André Nell's 2009 study at the French National Museum of Natural History proved these jaws generated enough force to crack chitin shells 4 millimeters thick. Shockingly, Meganeura hunted in coordinated swarms. Fossil sites in Kansas show multiple individuals preserved together, suggesting pack behavior. You couldn't outrun one, and encountering several meant zero chance of escape. The skies belonged to them completely. But here's what makes it worse. The ground offered no safety. Arthropleura, a millipede species, grew to 2.6 meters long and weighed approximately 45 kilograms. That's longer than adult humans and heavier than a large dog. Imagine a millipede the size of a park bench moving through the leaf litter. Fossil trackways discovered in Scotland reveal Arthropleura's movement patterns. Unlike modern millipedes that move slowly, these creatures could accelerate to surprising speeds when threatened or hunting. Their segmented bodies contained over 30 pairs of legs working in coordinated waves, generating momentum that crushed smaller organisms simply by passing over them. Unfortunately for anything in their path, Arthropleura possessed defensive capabilities beyond their size. While likely herbivorous, their sheer mass made them dangerous. A 2022 study by paleontologist Neil Davies at Cambridge University analyzed fossilized gut contents showing plant material mixed with smaller arthropods. Whether they actively hunted or simply consumed anything too slow to escape remains debated, but the result was the same. You got out of the way or got crushed. You couldn't even hide underground. Pulmonoscorpius, a scorpion species, reached lengths of 70 centimeters, as long as an average house cat. Modern scorpions inspire fear at just 10 centimeters, so scaling that up 9 times creates something from nightmares. Fossil specimens from Scotland, first described in 1899, show stinger structures 5 centimeters long. Talk about evolutionary overkill. That stinger wasn't just for defense. Pulmonoscorpius hunted actively, using those pincers to grab prey while the tail delivered venom. The venom composition hasn't survived fossilization, but the delivery mechanism shows remarkable sophistication. Venom channels ran through the stinger with enough internal volume to inject doses that would incapacitate creatures their own size. In case you needed more proof of Carboniferous danger, Arthropleura and Pulmonoscorpius shared the same ecosystems. Fossil sites in Nova Scotia contain both species preserved in the same rock layers. That means the forests held both giant millipedes and cat-sized scorpions simultaneously. You had threats at ground level from multiple directions. Then there's Meganeura's cousin, Meganeuropsis, which appeared later in the Permian period. This species pushed dragonfly evolution even further. Wingspans reached 71 centimeters with even more robust body structures. The thorax, which houses flight muscles, measured 8 centimeters in diameter. That's massive muscle mass dedicated entirely to flight power and aerial maneuvers. But here's what scientists discovered in 1940 that changed everything. Geologist Alfred Romer at Harvard University analyzed Carboniferous rock layers and found oxygen levels trapped in ancient air bubbles. The atmosphere contained 35% oxygen, a 67% increase over modern levels. That excess oxygen solved the size limitation problem. Insects don't have lungs. They breathe through spiracles, small holes in their exoskeletons that diffuse oxygen directly into tissues. In today's 21% oxygen atmosphere, this system limits insect size because diffusion becomes inefficient beyond a certain body volume. But pump oxygen levels to 35%, and suddenly diffusion works for much larger bodies. Shockingly, this wasn't just about bigger insects. It made them faster and more dangerous. Higher oxygen levels meant more efficient metabolism, which translated to quicker reaction times, sustained flight, and aggressive hunting behaviors. The entire food chain operated at an accelerated pace. The Carboniferous period also provided perfect habitat conditions. Vast swamp forests covered the continents, creating warm, humid environments where insects thrived. Tree ferns reached 30 meters tall, creating canopy layers that offered hunting grounds at multiple elevations. You couldn't escape to the trees because Meganeura owned that space. You couldn't stay on the ground because Arthropleura and Pulmonoscorpius patrolled there. Not to worry though. Vertebrates existed during this period, but they weren't dominant yet. Early amphibians and reptiles occupied lower positions in the food chain. A 2011 study by paleontologist Jason Dunlop at Berlin's Museum of Natural History examined predator-prey relationships in Carboniferous ecosystems and found insects occupied more apex predator niches than vertebrates. Unfortunately for early land vertebrates, competing with insects meant competing with creatures that had been evolving for over 100 million years already. Insects had perfected their body plans, while vertebrates were still figuring out how to breathe air efficiently. The size advantage insects gained from high oxygen levels gave them dominance that lasted millions of years. Then, between 270 and 260 million years ago, oxygen levels began dropping. A 2006 study by geochemist Robert Berner at Yale University traced atmospheric oxygen through geological time using carbon isotope analysis. As oxygen decreased toward modern levels, maximum insect sizes decreased proportionally. Meganeura went extinct. Arthropleura disappeared. Pulmonoscorpius vanished. In case you needed more proof, modern insects show exactly why this happened. Scientists conducted experiments raising dragonflies in oxygen-enriched environments. Dr. John Vanden Brooks at Arizona State University published results in 2010 showing dragonflies grew 15% larger when raised in 31% oxygen atmospheres. Scale that back to 35% oxygen in the Carboniferous, and you get giant insects. Reduce it to 21%, and you get modern sizes. No modern insect approaches Carboniferous sizes. The largest living dragonfly, Megaloprepus caerulatus, has a wingspan of just 19 centimeters. The largest millipede, Archispirostreptus gigas, reaches only 38 centimeters. Modern scorpions max out at 20 centimeters. These are impressive by today's standards, but pale compared to their Carboniferous ancestors. You couldn't survive a day in that environment. Walking through a Carboniferous forest meant constant vigilance in all directions. Above for Meganeura, below for Arthropleura, and at ground level for Pulmonoscorpius. Every rustle could signal a threat, and you had no technological advantages to level the playing field. Talk about perfect evolutionary timing. Insects dominated because they reached land first. They evolved efficient body plans, and they benefited from atmospheric conditions that favored their respiratory system. When those conditions changed, vertebrates finally got their chance. But for 60 million years, insects ruled absolutely. The fossil record shows their dominance wasn't temporary or regional, it was global. Meganeura fossils appear in France, England, and Kansas. Arthropleura remains show up in Scotland, Germany, and North America. Pulmonoscorpius occupied Scotland and likely ranged across similar latitudes. These weren't isolated populations, they were successful species that spread across continents. Shockingly, some Carboniferous insects show even more extreme adaptations. Fossil griffinflies, relatives of Meganeura, had wingspans potentially reaching 80 centimeters based on fragmentary specimens. If confirmed, that's larger than any modern bird of prey. The skies held predators bigger than golden eagles, except these predators had evolved specifically for hunting other flying creatures with split-second precision. The Carboniferous represents Earth's only extended period where arthropods ruled as apex predators on land. Before it, life was still primarily aquatic. After it, reptiles and eventually dinosaurs took over. That 60 million year window created a world fundamentally different from anything before or since. A world where the buzz of wings meant danger, where something the size of a dog had hundreds of legs, and where stingers measured longer than your fingers. A 75-centimeter dragonfly with 30,000 lens eyes hunting at 56 kilometers per hour. A 2.6-meter millipede weighing 45 kilograms crushing anything in its path. A 70-centimeter scorpion with a 5-centimeter stinger delivering incapacitating venom. These weren't movie monsters or fictional creatures. They were the dominant predators of Carboniferous Earth, and they ruled for longer than humans have existed. That's the reality of 35% oxygen atmospheres. They create conditions where your worst nightmares about insects become the actual food chain. The Carboniferous period proved that given the right environmental conditions, arthropods can absolutely dominate